This is Tabby.
And this is Holly.
And you're listening to Plant-Based Nation, the podcast where we talk about the latest headlines and trends in the vegan community.
And all listeners are welcome.
All right, and we're on.
Okay.
Right.
Cool.
Hey, Holly, what's up?
Oh, not a whole lot.
How's your Easter morning so far?
Oh, it's Easter, isn't it?
It is. That's what I said this morning.
It's going fine. Dave and I have had a kid-free weekend to get some
nice.
projects done. Yeah. So a couple updates in my life. One, I had my first COVID vaccine, which is amazing. I'm so excited. Good. Yeah, I had Pfizer, and I get my second one April 15th. So that's
How did you feel?
Super exciting. Like poop. So the first one really got to me, but I have heard that it's either the first one or the second one that gets you. So I'm hoping that the second one, I will breeze right through it because the first one, I ran a fever and I was no bueno for a few days. But I got through it and it's way better than the alternative.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I got both of mine, as you know, and I felt okay after the first one. I got a little bit of body aches, but it wasn't enough for me to call into work or anything. So I just went about my regular day. And then my second one is what had me laid up in bed for a good day.
Yeah.
But that's okay. It was fine. It was so weird because I knew what it was from, but as soon as the side effects started, I was out, and then there was no transition to suddenly starting to feel a little better. It was just I went from crap to feeling fine. So
yeah, it was the same way for me. I kind of I ran a fever the day after, and I missed I tried to power through work, and by 1:30,
yeah, it's hard.
I have to go home.
I'm done.
Yeah. I have to go lay down. But actually, what's really silly is I knew I was running a fever, but it wasn't bad enough for me to not be able to walk around.
Yeah.
I was just I feel sick. I can't think straight, But that day we went and bought a bus.
Oh yeah.
So that
tell everyone about your bus.
That I was feeling crappy. I was like, yeah, let's go buy a bus.
Oh my God.
So yeah, Dave and I have been talking about doing a bus conversion for a while, and I thought we might have to live in it this summer because some things are going on with the house that we're renting. But that has resolved itself, and
good.
Yeah, we're gonna stay in our house, which is great. But we decided to buy a bus anyway, and we're going to do a bus conversion and turn it into one of those fancy looking campers. And
that'll be good.
Yes, we're super excited. We took all of the seats out of the bus yesterday. I say really, it was Dave and one of Dave's friends, actually Dave's friend mostly, was super excited to do this demolition. So
I bet
5 hours.
I had so much fun. My dad told me when he was in high school, he and his friends, they sat in the back of the bus, and they ended up they rearranged the seats in the back of the bus for the school year. They took up they sat in the very back, and then they picked up 2 of the seats and turned them around and had them facing reverse. That way you had 2 seats on each side that were basically facing each other. And they had it set up like that for the school year, and the bus driver just kind of pretended it wasn't happening and left it alone until the last week of school, and then he was like, okay, you have to switch them back around. But they were playing cards and stuff in the morning on the way to school.
The bus driver is really, they're quiet.
Yeah, I don't
give me a hard time. I don't care. They can fix it. They did it. They can fix it. That's so funny. Right.
Yeah, I thought that was great. So, well, that's cool. So
It-
where do you have any ideas of where you're gonna put, like, the sleeping sections and all that stuff?
sort of, yeah. I actually have a lot of things planned out except for our like Dave and I's bedroom. Because so it's a 31-foot bus. It's huge.
Yeah.
It's parked in our driveway right now. Like, luckily, the driveway's big enough for it. It just fits in our driveway.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
but so the kids, I'm thinking they're gonna have like individual bunks where
Yeah.
they each on each side they'll have a little bed, and then at the foot of their bed they'll have some space to like where they can actually like stand up, and they'll have curtains that they can pull for like some privacy.
Yeah.
Because Grace is 6 and Oscar will be 4, and so I didn't want them to have to give up like a lot of stuff that they would normally have, like privacy, like being able to shut their
Yeah.
door, having their own little space to play and do stuff and have their stuff. And then we're gonna do like a small dinette kitchen,
Mhm.
and so we're roughing it on the kitchen part, which
Yeah.
means we're gonna have like a toaster oven, not a full oven, like a toaster oven, and then like a hot, like a burners.
Oh,
And
like a hot plate type thing?
yeah, maybe, yeah, something like that. And then, but I'm spending a lot on the solar and the water because I want
Yeah.
to be self sufficient.
Yeah.
And the solar is going to be, I think, the most difficult thing to install because panels are not efficient, as I found out as I've been researching them, which is one of the reasons I guess we're having such a hard time going to solar power because it takes so many. I did find out that one solar company has now developed I don't, oh, I might get the units wrong, but I know it's 500 either kilowatts or watts
Hmm.
solar panel converter, and 500 is like really high because most
Yeah.
of them do not surpass 300,
Mhm.
and you need about uh so you have to like do the multiplication when you're doing solar panels to know like what you need to run in a day.
Yeah.
So think like if a refrigerator needs um 30 kilowatt hours, 30 kilowatts an hour to run, then you have to think like, okay, if my refrigerator is going to run for 24 hours a day, that's 30 times 24.
Right.
It's, God, I can't even do that math quickly in my
Yeah,
head.
it's too early in the day for that.
It's over 600
It's a
kilowatts,
lot. It's a lot
right?
of numbers.
It is, but it's like over 600 kilowatts. So you need a panel that will provide you need enough panels that will provide you 600 kilowatts. And that's just a refrigerator.
Yeah,
So
that's
if
pretty
you,
cool.
yeah, but so if you think about it that way, it's like you need a lot of panels for not a lot. I mean, we depend so much on electricity for so many things.
Yeah.
So, um, that's going to be intense getting that all hooked up. But once we have that, I will feel great about it. I will
Yeah,
feel
that's good.
unstoppable in our bus conversion.
You'll get there. Yeah, we have, solar panels at the farm actually
Oh,
on
nice.
the yeah, it was kinda funny. I didn't know we were getting them, and then they showed up to work one day, and there they were on the roof, and I was like, "Oh,
Oh, cool.
okay. We're doing this now."
Yeah.
But, um,
They can
yeah.
be they can be cool if you are only wanting them to power certain things.
Yeah,
Um,
I think this is I could be wrong, but I think that this is only powering, like, the barn and
mm,
stuff immediately related to the barn. There's, like, a little house on the property, so
mm,
I don't know if there aren't any panels on the house, but but they're not far away. The house is not that far from the barn, so I'm actually not
Mhm.
sure if it's, like, tapped into that or not. But,
Got
um, they did it to try and be, like, more cost effective over the long term for the
Mhm.
program, given it's, like,
Yeah.
a nonprofit and everything like that. Um, so I don't know. They're there, they're huge. The panels are massive and they're heavy as heck, and,
Yeah.
yeah, I was a little concerned about the roof that we have because I've heard rumor that some people, like, when you put them on the roof of your building, you have to,
Mhm.
like, do special things to your roof to make sure that
Yeah,
they'll
yeah,
be
you
able to hold
wanna
the weight,
assure it, yeah.
but we were okay, so
Good. Oh
that
gosh.
was good.
Yeah. Yeah, my dad has solar panels on his house only specifically to, power his hot water heater.
Yeah.
So he has, like, a tankless hot water heater, and he only
Oh,
has the
cool.
solar power, yeah, like, going into the hot water heater.
That's neat.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's what's going on in your life? Anything new?
Um,
How's it going?
oh, I'm planning a little meditation retreat for myself.
Oh, yeah, that sounds so
Um,
nice.
yeah, I know. Okay, so I read this book, maybe like a year and a half or 2 years ago. It was way before pandemic life, and
Yeah.
it's called, 10% Happier, and it's written by Dan Harris, who I believe he's an ABC reporter, and he, uh, wrote this book to talk about his experience with mindfulness meditation and, becoming sober because of the time that he had, like, this famous panic attack, and it's famous because it happened on national television when he was
Oh,
in the midst of a report.
gosh.
Um, it was really bad. They, like, thought, he describes in the book that he had never had a panic attack before, and at the time, he was, I think he was using cocaine or something,
Mm.
um, and so inevitably, he found out that the panic attack was related to the drug use,
Oh,
but it came out of, like, nowhere, and he just all of a sudden you can see him on TV, you can YouTube it. He, like, can't breathe properly, and then he just starts speaking in gibberish, and he very quickly, like, ended the clip, and his co-anchors took over or whatever, and behind the scenes in the book, he explains that his coworkers, like, in in the room who were with him, they thought he had a stroke or
yeah.
something because, like, his vocalization had just changed so drastically.
Oh, wow.
But anyway, in the book, he talks about how, from that experience, he started to see a psychiatrist, and then the psychiatrist, um, started telling him about, mindfulness and meditation and all this other stuff.
Mhm.
And so this led him to go onto I think he signed up for a 10-day retreat. It was a 10 I wanna say it was a 10-day silent retreat, and he had never done anything like that before. So,
Mhm.
um, he had to do, uh, it was like a silent meditation retreat with I think there was some yoga involved, but basically he went and he wasn't allowed to talk to anybody for the entire retreat until, like, the very last day. Like, they would set up time each day for you to go speak to, sort of a mentor in the program to kind of,
Mhm.
so they would check in and see how you're doing and address any issues or challenges you might be experiencing while you're meditating. And the book is just really funny when he is describing the experience because he immediately was just like, "What have I gotten myself into?" like, and he's, like, describing the walking meditation at one point, like, he thought, "Okay, fine, walking meditation, I'll just start walking," and he's walking around doing his walking thing, and then he looks around and he notices that some people are walking in, like, really slow motion because they're trying to be
Mine.
really mindful in what they're doing, and so some people are doing that, step by step, and then other people are doing it literally, like, inch by inch, how they're moving their bodies,
Wow.
and so but ultimately, he comes back from that experience and he starts, like, pursuing this whole new lifestyle, and when I was reading it at the time, I was like, "Oh, that'd be really cool to try." I don't know if I could do, like, a 7 or a 10-day thing. that that seems a little intense for me.
Maybe you'll
Um,
work up to it.
yeah, to start out right away, having no, like, prior experience with it, it seems daunting. So and then I tabled the idea, and then coronavirus happened, and then
Right.
yeah, just a few weeks ago, I've been having a lot of issues with anxiety and depression the last few months, so I thought maybe this is a good time to try and, do this, and I wonder if I could do it, virtually, because a lot of these retreats right now, they can't have them in person, so I found 3 different hosting sites that are offering virtual online retreats, and
Huh.
each each one has like so it's a workshop a day. So I'm gonna go away for like 3 days basically. I found a hotel nearby in a nearby town, and um, each workshop is anywhere between like 4 and 6 hours, but uh, but there's like breaks in between. Like it's kind of broken up into
Mm.
sections. So,
Mm.
like, they'll have, like, an hour and a half to 2 hours of, like, speaking stuff, whether it be, like, a lecture or a guided meditation or whatever, and then there's a break for a couple hours, and then there's the next piece to it. Um, but most of the day will be basically empty, so I'm gonna go do that, and I'm really looking forward to it because 'cause I'll be able to just my plan is to just go and turn my phone off and keep the, TV off and only use the internet to access the, workshops and just chill out for a few days. Um, so I'm starting that this Friday, right after work, I'm gonna go, so
Oh, wow. Okay, cool.
yeah. So I'll be off the grid for a few days, so if you try to reach out, I'm not dead, I'm
Good.
just
Good to know, because if Tabby
unplugged.
doesn't answer within 12 hours, I start to get
I
worried.
know. I know, you're not the only one. I've
Yeah.
had, like, 2 friends call me before because one friend, I grew up with her. We've known each other since 2nd grade. She texted me, I forget what was happening at the time, but she texted me at, like, noon or something, and she hadn't heard from me, and it was, like, 7 o'clock at night, so she called me, and she's like, "Are you okay? Like, you usually get back to me right away. I'm just checking." Like, "Yeah, I'm fine." I forget what was happening. I don't know if I had, like, a conference that day. There was a good reason as to why I couldn't get to the phone, but it was just really funny. She was like, "Okay, because if I don't hear from you within, like, 12 hours of sending a text, I'm, like, certain something bad has happened." So,
You are a very predictable texter. It's very
I
nice.
am. I am. Jay says I'm gonna be, like, the first, what does he say? Like, first, not cyborg, I'm saying something else, like, bionic person because my
Yeah.
phone is, like, glued to my face all the time, so,
Well, a
anyway
retreat will be good then.
yeah, exactly, so I think it'll be really good
Yeah.
because really hard time not checking my phone and not staying plugged in all the time, and, um, yeah, I can just escape from everything for a few days and hopefully, like, jumpstart the mindfulness stuff. I've been trying to my problem is I'm into the meditation stuff, I'm into yoga and everything,
Mhm.
but I'm not very consistent with my practice.
Mm,
So and I tend to be a person where if I'm struggling for a few days, I either do it because I'm struggling for a few days or I don't do it because I feel like garbage. And then on days when I'm feeling really good, which is when you should be doing like maintaining a practice,
yeah.
there are plenty of times where I'm like, "No, I feel good today. I'm gonna skip it."
Right.
So, consistency is something I really need to fix in my life.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it is
Anyway.
kind of like a rebellious thing to do right now, to, like, turn off your phone and
Yeah,
not be
right?
accessible to everyone all the time.
Yeah,
It's like a level of, uh, me time that not a lot
that's
of
right.
people like, do now, which is
No,
unfortunate. I always feel really rebellious when I'm like, "I'm not checking my phone for hours."
screw everyone. Yeah. One of the intros to one of the workshops that I was watching or sorry, on the workshop page, they had, like, a brief 2-minute clip of another workshop, but it'll be hosted by the same person, so it kinda gives you an idea as to, like, the person's, like, style of speaking and mannerisms and stuff like that and what to expect, and what he said was he does his practice every day for, like, 30 minutes in the morning is how he starts his day,
Mm.
and sometimes he's like he says, I have to wake up really early to do it, depending on what I'm doing that day.
Right.
And he said, but he argues that it's an act of radical self-compassion, like for yourself,
Yeah.
to not look at the phone right away, not look at your email right away, to just like sit down and just have space for a set amount of time every day before like the chaos of the world settles in on you.
Yeah.
Um, and it's like a radical response to the outside world too, just being like, "Nope, I'm gonna put up a boundary right here, and I'm not gonna deal with you right now. I'm gonna
Yeah.
just listen to myself." And I kinda liked that. I thought that was a good little, piece to take away from that, um, page. I forget the person's name, but I think what I'm gonna do is afterwards, I'll post all the little workshops I did
Oh,
on
yeah,
the
definitely.
website. Yeah, I'll do a blog post and then put it
Cool.
on our blog. So
Cool.
everybody can do it. It's only one of the 3 is actually scheduled, and then after that one, so meaning only one of the 3 is live, and then the other 2 are on demand, and the one that's live is going to be available on demand after this weekend. So all 3 will be available on demand, and you can do it whenever you want. So,
Very cool.
yeah.
Awesome. Well, and to get to the present,
Yeah, to get to the
being
present.
mindful of the
Um,
present.
yeah, so, I don't have any show updates. Do you have any show updates?
I don't think so.
I don't think we
Oh,
have any updates.
I
Oh,
do have
okay.
a show update actually.
Okay.
We got stickers.
Oh, yeah, we did. I
So
forgot.
be on the lookout. I'm gonna give myself a deadline of this week. Be on the lookout of how you can snag one of our super cute stickers. It's our
Okay.
logo, the cow with the headphones.
Yes.
And so they're super fun
Yeah.
stickers. That and I don't know if you're like me in your uh, adult life and still obsessed with stickers.
This'll be for you.
This is for you. We'll
Yeah.
send them out, as I'll put on Instagram, up on our, social media, our soch, how you can snag one. Ever wonder why you need a bucket of cleaners, each for a different surface? You actually don't. Did you know Force of Nature can replace bleach, kitchen, bath, glass, and even rug cleaners? It's one gentle but super powerful multitasker to replace all the toxic cleaners in your cabinet. Empty your cabinets, not your wallet.
And did you know that Force of Nature can actually save you money versus typical natural cleaners and disinfectants? Even in the first year when you buy the starter kit. Force of Nature uses a technology called electrolyzed water that's been used for over 50 years in the industrial space for cleaning and even wound, eye, and veterinary care products.
You can get your starter kit today when you go to plantbasednation.com and click the Force of Nature affiliate link on the homepage.
Thanks for listening.
Bye! So, do you want to talk about what we are discussing today?
Yes. So today, I'm going to be talking about the Akashinga, which is an all women, all plant based conservation army that's located in Zimbabwe.
That is so badass.
I know, I love them. They're very cool. So the Akashinga, the word stands for or means the brave ones, was founded by a man named Damien Mander. And he comes to the table with a tremendous amount of military experience, having worked as an Australian Royal Navy clearance diver and later as a special operations sniper in the Tactical Assault Group East, which is an elite counterterrorism unit in the Australian Defence Force.
Mm.
Um, then, after that, he spent several years working for several private military organizations tasked with ensuring the safety of Australian diplomats in northern Baghdad. And he also worked with U.S. Army's Corps of Engineers to assist with Iraqi reconstruction efforts.
So, easy
And
life. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So he did his career and all that started in 1999, and he continued to do all that amazing stuff until 2008. Um, he left Iraq in 2008 and he traveled to South Africa in 2009 with basically the goal of finding a space where he could recuperate and sort of recharge after he had witnessed so much violence and turmoil for so many years while he was in service.
Right.
Um, and so what initially drew him to the area was the idyllic landscapes, the wildlife, pretty much everything else that I would imagine would draw most tourists who go to that area.
Right.
Um, and while he was there, he learned about how big of a problem poaching is in the area.
Mm.
Um, so a few years ago, uh, there were some projections that were put out that stated that the I think it was gonna be, like, by 2024, elephants in the wild would be pretty much extinct. So this is like,
Yeah.
it's a serious problem.
Mm.
People, and elephants are sort of the primary um, focal point, for anything that I have read on the Akashinga, but
Okay.
it's important to note that they are, like, protecting all animals. It's not just the elephants. I think just elephants and rhinos are the most critical
Yeah.
species right
And
now.
I mean, we can also I can talk about this a little bit later, but from the research
Yeah,
I did on the overall general conservation strategy within Zimbabwe, elephants and rhinos are the main concern because of ivory and rhino horn. Um, and that comes from a massive demand from Asian markets.
correct.
Um,
Yeah. So they are being decimated in the region, and so he learned about all this when he was on his trip, which is kind of a bummer because he was going there to relax and recoup, and now he's learning about all this other, you know, terrible stuff that's going on.
but it sounds
But,
like he was sensitive to it anyway from his previous
yeah,
work.
yeah, I would say so, for sure. And so what he did was he decided to learn as much as he could about the criminal networks that are involved with, uh, poaching in the area.
Oh, so he took his anti-terrorism training and turned it to anti-poaching. Now this all makes sense.
Yeah, he did, it was very cool. So he became a
Okay.
volunteer with an anti-poaching unit in, Zimbabwe National Park. I hope I'm
Mhm.
pronouncing that correctly. And it was there that he began to learn, like, the ins and outs of the anti-poaching work that was already going on in the region. And, he started to see that he might, because of his background in anti-terrorism, that he could probably bring some very important skills to the
Yeah,
table to fight poachers in the region. So he started as a volunteer, and he eventually began writing training packages that would later become the basis of the ranger training courses that he would create, with the founding of the IAPF, which stands for the International Anti-Poaching Foundation.
cool.
Um, and it's important to point out too that the poachers in this area are militarized. So they're using all the stuff that he already has tons of experience with and tons of understanding about.
The poachers are extremely funded, like
Yeah,
extremely well funded. They are funded often by larger cartels that are paying them to bring resources, these poached natural resources from Africa to international regions, like a lot of
right,
Asia. I don't want to just pinpoint Asia, but
right.
the majority of the resources do go into Asia, and they are funded by larger cartels within those regions. So it's not just a couple of hunters out trying
No,
to make a quick buck within Africa. Like
right.
these are basically natural resource terrorist organizations.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. So they're very difficult to fight against. And in one of the interviews that I was watching with Mander, he talks about how prior to the founding of IAPF I want to say he said in about 16 years, over 8,000 elephants had been poached in the area. Yeah, so it's pretty significant. So he decided to or found the IAPF, and to do this, he uh, basically liquidated all of his assets. So he had a bunch of investment properties that he had acquired during his service to the Royal Navy. He liquidated those. He used all of his personal savings to fund his startup operation. And I'd like to put this on the side. He is married, and I would just love to meet his wife because I think that is so badass that she was so supportive of his decision to basically put all of like their financial stuff into this project without
Uh,
knowing how successful it would be. That's huge. And so he decided to found this organization, and he decided to take a really unusual approach to fighting poaching, which was to bring in all female recruits to join his conservation army.
hmm,
And this for a few different reasons. So, one of the things he noticed while he was in the region is that women in that area are significantly disadvantaged. Um,
hmm,
and he recognized too that there needed to be some kind of community buy-in order to be more successful against poaching.
yeah,
So he wanted to create something that would basically get that community buy-in. He also had I don't know if he had done the research or if this was something that was figured out after the foundation. But in my research, I learned that statistically speaking, women sometimes, and we know this in anthropology, women sometimes have access to resources that men don't have, like in the social community. And so from that, they could get information about poachers in the area that men might not be privy to.
yeah.
Um,
Women
so
are
like women
gatekeepers in
exactly.
very
Gatekeepers to the home,
yes.
gatekeepers to the community. So there was that advantage. And statistically, women were less likely to be uh, able to be corrupted by the poaching system.
Huh,
So,
shocking.
like, yeah, so for whatever reason, it was much harder for women to be basically paid off to allow like poachers into certain areas
Mm,
um, to poach. So, um, at the time that I did that research, they hadn't found any instances where any women workers involved with conservation had done that.
yeah,
So
and,
just putting that out there.
I mean, I'm sure you can hear the sarcasm in my voice when I say
Yeah.
shocking, but, I mean, that it totally that all makes sense because when you think about, when you're looking at, um I hate this word, but charity, because I can't
Yeah.
think of another word. When you're looking at providing resources and injecting resources into communities, oftentimes, I mean, well, it's been known that if you provide the resources to the women of the community, the resources will be more distributed among
Yes.
the
Mhm.
community.
Mhm.
Than if you provide the resources to the men. Even if it's not a matriarchal society, women still tend to spread resources more evenly and use them for more altruistic endeavors.
Yes. Well, and I think part of it too is that, and this came up as well, is that so the women who are involved in Akashinga,
Mm,
a lot of them are mothers,
yeah,
a lot of them are wives,
right.
many of them are single mothers. Uh,
No,
a lot, if not all of them, are survivors of abuse,
right.
and they've either endured significant trauma or they've witnessed it in their own families. As of 2016, UN Women reports that 37.6% of women in Zimbabwe report that they are victims of lifetime physical or sexual abuse from their intimate partners,
Wow.
and 32.4% of the marriages involve child brides. And
Mm.
just across the board with the country, there doesn't seem to be a huge difference in how many are living below the poverty line. So I think I read something like 18 point something percent are men living below poverty line, and 19 point something percent of women are living below the poverty line. So
Okay.
um,
Oh,
they're having to deal with a lot of significant hardships, and they're also the primary caregivers of the children. So
yeah.
I wonder, like, I'm sure that plays into their desire to ensure that resources are distributed as fairly as possible because they
Oh, yeah.
want, you know, they're trying to like better their communities. They are having to raise their children in this environment.
Yeah. And so that probably creates, more empathy toward,
Yes.
um, like, animal abuse and animal rights as well.
Correct. Yeah, so Mander, believes that putting the well-being of wildlife in the hands of expertly trained women in the community can usher in a new way of carrying out conservation, and one that he argues that will be less violent and which empowers women and improves communities in the process. And by saying less violent, because women are really good communicators, like,
Yeah.
and so these women in particular, like, they'll use those conversation skills when they go back to their communities to try and figure out, like, um, if there are any hazards in the area that they need to be aware of.
Right.
And when they apply to Akashinga, they have to participate in a 72-hour trial, which is full of rigorous physical exercises. It's basically like the same sort of exercises you would see in special ops training.
Mhm.
When they join, if they're selected to join, because they participate in the 72-hour trial and not all of them will make the cut. If they're invited to join, they have to be prepared to confront those militarized poachers who don't hesitate to kill anybody who stands in their way.
Right.
And if they're selected, suddenly, they receive an income that allows them to buy property, to build a house, pay for
Oh,
their
wow.
children's education. They can get a driver's license. They can finish their own education. A lot of these women haven't been able to finish high school. So if they can finish high school, then they can go on to college if they want to. Um, and uh, so they have received some cynicism from the community at large because in the conservation worlds, it is very unusual for women to have any position on the front lines. Like the ratio is something like 100 men to one woman, basically.
Wow. Yeah.
Mander is quoted as saying, quote, "There's a saying in Africa, if you educate a man, you educate an individual, but if you educate a woman, you educate a nation." He says, "We're seeing increasing evidence that empowering women is one of the greatest forces of change in the world today." End quote. As mentioned before, his innovative approach to conservation calls for community buy-in rather than full-on armed assault against poachers.
Mm.
And one thing that his foundation tries to do is to inform the community how beneficial, like, preserving animals in the area can be economically.
Oh, yeah.
The end goal is to try to end poaching with less of
Silent.
full-on armed violence.
Yeah.
Um, Mander's approach and the Akashinga are revolutionizing the way animals are protected, communities are powered, and its members' own lives are being transformed. And by 2030, he hopes that the Akashinga model will be expanded and adopted by others to employ some 4,500 female rangers, watching more than 96,500 square miles of former hunting blocks across the continent. And it's worth noting too that since the formation of his foundation, poaching in the area has dropped by 80%, which is pretty awesome. And
Wow.
the local wildlife numbers have increased by 350%, which is pretty
Wow.
phenomenal. Because like prior to this, they like no other conservation effort has had such success in such a short amount of time. And
Yeah.
he's really like just a drop in the bucket with this organization because so many other anti-poaching units, they're following the more traditional, like all male, armed to the teeth, direct confrontation, all that stuff, which has its place too, like, not trying to poo-poo their efforts, but
Right.
just
Yeah.
saying it's really cool that he's come up with this new model, which, people seem cautiously cautiously interested in and cautiously optimistic about, but as the years go by, like, people who matter, who make important decisions about this stuff are starting to really, like, pay attention to what's going on in this region with this organization because they're being so successful.
Yeah.
Um, and my favorite quote from him that I came across, he says, quote, "Women are now the leaders. I'm expendable. They're the ones taking this program forward, and for so long, we've been blinded by our egos from seeing that the most powerful force in nature, and that's a woman's instinct to protect." And
Hmm.
that's the end quote. Yeah.
This is
So
a feminist podcast, if you didn't catch
I
on.
know, I know. So, if you, want to learn more about the IAPF or you want to, support them, you can visit their website. It's at iapf.org, and they offer options to make one-time donations, or you can become a monthly member, and that funds, like, their meals and their lodging and the supplies they need and all that stuff to get, like, their work done. So,
That's really cool. I
yeah.
I wonder I wonder how he's handling, like, childcare and things like that. I wonder
I'm
how
really
he's
curious about
involved.
that too, because I know, like, with other people who work in this world, usually with it, if it's the men, they just leave the home and then they work away from home for as long as they need to. Like,
Right,
some may not travel home for, like, weeks at a time
right.
or longer. So, I'm curious about that as well.
Yeah.
Um,
Although I'm sure, like, I know, well, I don't know, but I would imagine within their culture, there's more of like a community involvement in child rearing than we are
right.
used to, which is like so much better. Like, you really
Yeah,
need an entire village to raise a child. But so I wonder if there's that like community support within the organization,
right.
where they kind of logistically figure it out. Um,
Yeah, some of the women that, were in a couple of the interviews I was watching, they are
Mhm.
in polyamorous marriages, so
Yeah,
presumably they're coming from households where there are other wives
like
at home.
multiple. Oh, okay.
Yeah, or
And
there's
that makes sense.
multi-generations living, like, in the same if not the same home, sort of, like,
Yeah.
uh,
Oh, yeah.
nearby.
Okay.
So
That makes sense. Another thing I wanted to just point out from so I did a little bit of research on just the general conservation practices within Zimbabwe, and
yeah,
I came across the World Wildlife Federation's strategic initiative for conservation in Zimbabwe, their 2016 to 2020 plan. Um, and so it was written in 2016. Uh, there is, it seemed like as I was reading through it, there was a shift toward community involvement because Zimbabwe has always been very good at understanding that there has to be community buy-in. Just
yeah,
like Mander was discussing, Zimbabwe was actually the first African country to develop like a strategic initiative that provides an alternative approach to management outside of protected areas. So, like natural resource management on private and public lands through legislation. Um,
right.
so, involving the community very early on in the quote unquote conservation field is one of Zimbabwe's like foundational efforts. And so it seems to me I didn't see any reference to the Akashinga in the strategic plan from the WWF, but it seems to me that those two practices, those that they are there's this strategic foundation um, being created that is basically using the same focus of community involvement, of community buy-in from
Yeah.
these multiple plans, these multiple organizations, which is really great to see because, I mean, we know we know from military efforts and
Mhm.
anti-terrorist um, focuses around the world that community um, stability and community involvement is the only way that you can really ensure that terrorist organizations do not get a hold within
Yes.
those regions.
Right.
Now, I will say from the little bit that I looked at from the recent news, the pandemic was devastating, just like for every other terrible thing in the world. It was devastating for conservation because poaching increased so dramatically.
Yeah.
The economic incentive for poaching increased severely. The disadvantagement for economically disenfranchised people within those regions of natural resources. Basically, they were confronted with hard choices, and in order to feed their families, sometimes it's requiring them to turn a blind eye to poaching, not be
Yeah.
as stable.
Right. Or
So
even, like, earlier when I mentioned some people involved in conservation accept financial payouts, like, from poachers to allow
right,
poaching. Like, it's important to recognize it's not necessarily like they're, you know, "Oh, I'm completely against ideologically, like, the idea of preserving wildlife." It's just, I'm in a desperate situation,
yeah,
and I'm not making enough money and my family needs money because maybe somebody's sick or maybe, you know, they can't eat. That was something that came up a lot in the research I was doing, that a lot of these women, they were just relieved that they were going to have a way to feed their children.
yeah,
So it's these outside, basically, terrorists who wildlife terrorists who are exploiting people in the local community just as
yeah,
much as the wildlife if they can.
yeah.
So,
Which is the same exact thing that terrorist organizations like within the
yeah,
Middle East have done, and that's how they've infiltrated so many areas.
right,
And gotten
right.
so much support. And I shouldn't even just say the Middle East. It's happened in South America. Um,
Yeah, it's all
it,
over.
yeah, it happens in Asia. And so, yeah, it's a little heart wrenching to see what has come with the pandemic because people have been
Yeah,
put in such precarious situations,
right.
um, even within the US. So,
Oh, yeah, for sure. I know when I was reading these
girl.
statistics and they were talking about the unemployment, being basically close to 20% in Zimbabwe, that
Yeah.
was pre-pandemic. So I
Yeah.
can only imagine what it's like now, and if you already had food insecurity before the pandemic
Right.
in a country that's already struggling,
Right.
like, it's not gotten any better, I'm sure, right now, so,
Um,
um,
so if you are able to, and this is something that really like touches you, look at the Akashinga website, the iapf.org site, and if you can donate or sponsor, it is a great
yes,
way to um, you know, really
give back.
directly impact conservation.
Yeah, absolutely, and to help them, like, continue doing the work they're doing, and, I
Mm,
mean, it's pretty cool because it sounds to me that they're revolutionizing the way that conservation is, you know, um, being carried out.
Yeah.
And if this is a path that is like this successful in such a short amount of time
Yeah.
in small region, like think of what the impacts could be if they're if they do receive more funding and financial support from donors, and what they're able to achieve like on a larger scale.
Right.
Um,
And how cool is it that it's an organization that's not only like stabilizing conservation, but also like uplifting
yes,
women and
right.
the
I love that.
communities at large. I mean, how
Yeah.
great of an example of a rising tide lifts all boats. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
and what I really like about this guy Mander is that he in his interviews, he's very like um he doesn't come off as though he's trying to take like all of the credit. He's not coming off like, "Oh, I created this great thing and now I'm helping like these poor disenfranchised people give me all these accolades for it." Like he doesn't have that white savior mentality, that you can see
mhm.
in other organizations,
Right.
like,
Yeah, totally.
Peace Corps.
Right.
Anyway, like, he's not like that at all. Like, he at least he doesn't come off that way. He's just like, "Yeah, this is my name, this is my background. I had this idea. This is what I'm doing." But all I'm doing is really just providing like, I jump started this concept, but they're doing all the work. And then
Yeah.
basically the focal he, like, very much seems like he wants the focal point to be on the communities, to be on the women who are doing the work.
Mhm.
And, the women that like he's in one of there's a short film about them that you can watch on their website too that was produced by James Cameron. And
Wow.
it's a Nat
Oh,
Geo short film called The Brave Ones. And they even say in there, like, they're not all going to survive the job. Like, some of these women are going to be killed, like, in the line of duty. And
wow.
so it's not anything that he takes lightly. It's not anything they take lightly.
Yeah.
Um, it's very serious work. So,
Wow.
um, yeah, it's really good. So I thought this was it was coincidentally a good topic for this month because April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. So I just thought, hey, this is kind of cool. We're talking about these women who basically like have picked themselves up and been badass survivors and now they're doing like some really cool work. I didn't
Yeah.
plan that, just like happened.
Wow.
So,
Yeah, it really I probably haven't shared this on this pod, but I now work in the domestic violence field as a data specialist. And so um, it's really neat. What a weird word to use. But
mhm,
I can, I'm starting to really appreciate how prolific and daunting interpersonal violence is around the
mhm,
world. I
yeah,
was really only familiar with my region. I live in kind of a rural region, so we have specific aspects of interpersonal violence that we tend to focus on. But thinking about my organization thinks a lot about empowerment for survivors. That's one of our main goals is to meet survivors where they're at and really empower them to become um, strong, self-sufficient, self-confident survivors. And
yeah,
so hearing about an international organization that is so directly impacted, I don't know if that's the right
yeah,
word, by,
yeah,
domestic violence and
yeah,
um it's definitely, I'm so glad you like found this topic because I think it's such a great example of so many things. And I think learning about it for so many different types of people is really important, especially to get an international perspective because of the past year that we've had where
Yes,
everyone's been so confined. Um,
right.
it's great. Thank you
Yeah,
for choosing
it's
this topic.
good.
It's great.
Yeah, sure. I'm glad we were able to cover it.
Yeah.
It's cool. So I'll post the link and to their website on our website on our blog, which again, plantbasednationpod.com. Hey Holly, have you heard of the Kinder Beauty Box Company?
Hey, Tabby. Yeah, I think so. Isn't that a cosmetic subscription service?
Yep, Kinder Beauty Box offers multiple plans starting as low as $25 a month. Each box is curated with kindness and delivered to your door every month.
Well, that's cool, but what do they do about packaging? Some of those services produce a lot of waste.
With Kinder Beauty Box, mailing waste is no problem. They use non-toxic, eco-friendly packaging. All materials are recyclable or can be repurposed for something else.
Oh, that's cool. So what comes in the box?
Each box contains a collection of clean, 100% vegan and cruelty-free cosmetic products. These are full-sized products too, not sample sizes. Each subscriber will receive a mix of skincare, makeup, hair care, and accessories over the life of their subscription, up to $165 in value per box. The best part is you aren't locked in with your subscription, so you can easily skip, pause, or cancel your subscription at any time. I love my box. A little self-care is definitely important these days.
Oh, that's great. So where can our listeners find the subscription?
They can visit our website at www.plantbasednationpod.com and use our Kinder Beauty Box affiliate link on the homepage to place an order today. Do you want to jump into Switch Out real quick?
Yes.
Okay.
So switch out.
Okay, I don't remember who went first last time. Do you remember? Was it you or was it me?
You can go first. How about that?
Okay. Okay. So earlier this week I had okay, so I really like we've talked about coffee before. Um
Yeah.
I like to buy things when I'm out, and so I've been trying to cut back on that tremendously. And one of the things that I can easily drop my money down a black hole for is coffee out because it's just a quick purchase and it's quick pick me up. And where I work in a academic library. We have a cafe. We have a Starbucks retailer in the library, so that's dangerous for me. And we have one in the bookstore on campus, so that's also dangerous for me. So the other day when I was at the store on my way to work, I thought, okay, well, instead of buying like this $5 Starbucks coffee that I don't need, but I did feel like I needed a little pick me up, and it's getting warmer out, so I really like cold brews.
Hmm.
So I was checking out the grocery store and I found one. It was pretty cheap. It was like 2.40 at my Whole Foods. I had one of those uh cold brew coffees with almond milk by Califia Farms.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I had the mocha flavor,
Yeah.
and it was so good, and I hadn't really had anything I buy them before. I think I've tried their regular plant milk,
Uh,
when it first came out, and it was
yeah.
good, but, it's like their regular stuff was a little pricey, but I loved their cold brew. It was so good.
Nice.
So, yeah, I highly recommend it. I love
Yum.
chocolate coffees, so, yeah. What
Cool.
about you?
So I came unprepared for a switch out.
Think of one real quick.
Um, but I will say, so I have been I know what my switch out is. Okay. So
Okay.
I have technically most of the time 2 kids. My boyfriend has a daughter and I have a son.
Yeah.
So Dave's daughter is kind of obsessed with lunch meat.
Oh, okay.
like sliced turkey and ham and stuff like that. I hate buying it for obvious reasons. But I was having a hard time figuring out like different options for her because she would always request it, and she is 6, so she's in a very literal place.
That's a
And
good way of putting it.
right. And every time we have talks about like, oh, I don't eat animals, and her grandmother is vegetarian too. And so, but she's hasn't been brought up that way. And so
Yeah.
talking about it has been a little like jarring a little bit
Yeah.
because she'll be
Yeah.
just very literally say, oh, I like to eat animals. And I'm like, ah,
Oh,
okay.
no.
Um, and so it's been interesting conversations. But
Yeah.
I found Sweet Earth lunch meats. They are
Yum.
100% vegan and they're super good. Like the
Yay. I
texture
like
is
their, they have
great.
good little burritos. I haven't tried their lunch meats yet, so they're
Oh
good?
man, their meatless alternatives are fantastic. So I've
Oh,
bought their
good.
sausages before. Now their lunch meats, I will say, they're like $6.99 for a kind of a small package. Um, but to not have to buy actual meat, I was like, I will buy this all day. I will spend hundreds of dollars on this if I have to. Um,
Yeah.
so the texture is perfect. The taste is like 90%, I would say. The turkey
Okay.
has the texture is awesome. The turkey
Yeah.
has a little bit of a nutty flavor, which doesn't bother me and didn't bother the kids, but
That's good.
I was like, yeah, I can kind of tell, but it's awesome. So
Yeah.
she's gotten vegan turkey, vegan ham, and vegan pepperoni, and she loves it.
Yay! That's
Yes.
so exciting.
Yes.
Good,
And so
good.
I was like, I never have to buy lunch meat again. Hooray!
That's so good.
I have
That's
been
exciting.
very excited about it. And
Where can you find it? Where did you buy it
so
from?
I found it at my Giant food store, and I live in Maryland, so it's the Maryland, DC, Virginia Giant.
Okay.
I haven't seen it. I haven't really looked for it too many other places. I haven't seen it at Target yet. But Target tends to be. I mean, I have a tiny rural Target anyway, so it might be in some bigger Targets. Target tends to be a really good place to find vegan alternatives. Once they realize a brand is becoming a little bit popular, they usually tend to get on board with it.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, that's about it. I don't know if maybe you guys have I mean, Whole Foods probably has it. They're kind of
Yeah, I
there.
haven't seen it up here yet, but, I'm
Okay.
sure I see some of their Sweet Earth products up here, but not very
Mhm.
much. I do see it at ShopRite, and I
Okay.
see it at, Target, like you said.
Yeah.
Um, so I'll have to keep my eye out for it. I just tried I don't think I mentioned it in the last one, but since we're talking about Swiss House, I'm gonna
Mhm.
have a second one, which is
Wait.
the Just Egg, um, egg
Yes.
because those actually I finally found at Whole Foods. I felt like an idiot. They were in the freezer section, and for some reason, I kept looking for them in the refrigerator section, which makes no sense at all because they'd have to be frozen in order to be cooked in a toaster, I would think. And that's one of their things. It's like you can make this in a toaster.
Oh, right.
And they're really good. And they're pretty they come out to maybe an average of like a dollar or so per like egg that's in the
Oh, nice.
box, and I think I think you get 4 per box, and I also heard a rumor that those are now sometimes turning up at Aldi, so that's kind of nice to know.
Ooh.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
I'll Mhm.
Impossible Burger just turned up at Aldi because they just, like, cut their, prices again or no, sorry, not Impossible. Is it Impossible? I get them mixed up. The
Beyond Burger?
Bleeding Burger, the
Beyond?
bleeding one.
I forget what that one is. Is it Beyond Burger?
Hold on. Now I have to check. They're all good.
They are all good. And I found out my local burger
Mm.
shop, we have these like
Oh, it is
fancy.
Beyond. The
Oh,
Beyond
okay,
Burger. Yes,
cool.
that's what it is.
Yeah,
Okay.
I found out my local burger shop. I was super excited because I was like craving protein, but I did not want to get a burger.
Yeah.
And so I found out I could get an Impossible Burger, and I was like so excited. So I spent like a premium to get a
You know
good
what? That's
Impossible
okay.
Burger. But it
Treat
like
yourself.
it really satiated my soul and my belly.
Good. That's so good. Great. Sometimes you have to do that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. All right. So if you want to give us topic suggestions, reach out to us on social media. We're on
Yes.
Facebook, Instagram, sometimes Twitter. And we do have our website, which you can subscribe to,
Mhm.
and you'll receive updates on new episodes and blog posts. I try to do a blog post a month during the weeks that we don't have content drops. And I'm going to get back to scheduling a monthly guest blog post. I sort of fell off the wagon during the whole coronavirus craziness during our hiatus, but I'm going to get back on that because
Cool.
people seemed like they really enjoyed that. So bringing in experts from other plant-based um, niches, I guess, and letting them talk about their stuff on our website. So, yeah. So we will catch you next time. So
Yeah.
thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.
Don't forget to like, rate, and subscribe to the show. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram to get connected to the Plant-Based Nation community.
You can also send us an email at plantbasednationbc@gmail.com.
Thanks for listening.